Welcome to the new video of NeuroPhilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin **** the armor we wear. From our earliest days, we're taught to trust what people say. Language is our currency, and we trade words instead of gold. Yet, Nietzsche warned us not to be deceived. He observed that people seldom speak from unguarded truth. They speak from survival, ego, and fear. Every smile, every compliment, every declaration is wrapped in a layer of protection and armor they hope will shield them from rejection, ridicule, or exposure. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers and introducing yourself. Your voice may tremble, but your words remain steady. You hide trembling hands in your pockets, adjust your posture, and offer a steady gaze. Why? Because you've rehearsed the performance of confidence so many times that the lines feel as natural as breathing. Yet, beneath that performance lies the genuine you, vulnerable, uncertain, human. That performance is what Nietzsche called the mask. He did not cast it as an insult, but as a necessary tool. Every profound spirit needs a mask, he wrote. He meant that every person crafts a persona designed to navigate social currents, to blend in when advantageous, to stand out when needed, and to conceal when threatened. The problem arises when we mistake the mask for the person. We applaud eloquence as wisdom, charm as kindness, and certainty as truth-blind to the fact that these are simply well-forged facades. Consider the kindly neighbor who greets everyone with warmth and enthusiasm. You see her as generous, open-hearted perhaps, even altruistic. But what if that warmth is a carefully calibrated strategy to avoid loneliness? Maybe she pours coffee for friends because she fears looking unloved. Her geniality a barrier against the anxiety of social isolation. Or take the colleague whose quiet competence inspires admiration. Beneath his calm exterior may lurk a whirlpool of self-doubt. His whispered reassurances to himself, "I've got this," mask a gnawing terror of failure. Why do people invest so much energy into these masks? Because the unmasked self is vulnerable. A person who reveals their deepest fears risks judgment, big or outright hostility. Society rewards certain traits: confidence, assertiveness, optimism, so we learn to perform those traits even if we don't feel them. We speak in sound bites, post curated snapshots, and rehearse speeches designed to convey a favorable image. Over time, the mask becomes more familiar than the face beneath it. This relentless performance takes a toll. When your identity depends on a persona, every interaction becomes a test. A slight misstep, a faltered voice, a misplaced word feels like a chink in your armor. You become hypervigilant, scanning every expression and gesture from those around you. Are they judging you? Do they suspect the insecurity lurking beneath the well-tailored suit? The mask that was meant to protect you becomes its own prison. requiring constant upkeep and vigilance. Yet masks are imperfect. They slip. Even the most practiced actor cannot maintain an unbroken facade. In the smallest moments, in the anxious glance, the nervous laugh, the forced compliment, the real self leaks through. These are the cracks we must learn to read. A person who laughs a millisecond too long may be concealing discomfort. Someone who frequently interrupts may be terrified of fading into silence. A practiced smile that never reaches the eye's signals. A sorrow too deep for words. Understanding the mask is not about judgment, it is about compassion. When you realize that the person who booms with confidence may be battling a lifetime of self-doubt, you stop feeling threatened by their bravado. When you see that the overly kind may equate kindness with survival, you extend genuine warmth instead of suspicion. Recognizing the mask allows you to connect on a level that transcends superficial impressions. You begin to see others, not as they present themselves, but as they truly are, flawed, frightened, striving human beings. This skill, the ability to discern the person behind the persona, is rarely taught, yet it transforms every relationship. You watch body language instead of listening to scripted lines. You notice tension in the jaw, flickers in the eyes, and shifts in posture. You ask yourself, not, what are they saying? But what are they afraid of revealing? The mask may be elaborate. Fear has a tendency to surface in the most unguarded moments. By learning to read these tells, you gain insight into motives, desires, and fears. You see that source of power and vulnerability and respond with empathy rather than reaction. In doing so, you offer others a safe space to lower their defenses. You demonstrate that understanding doesn't require perfection, only presence and willingness to look beyond the facade. Over time, this mutual vulnerability builds trust deeper than any performance. Nietzsche's warning echoes. Don't confuse the mask with the person. Behind every confident proclamation lies a story untold. Behind every practiced kindness, a plea for acceptance. Behind every confident stance, a fragile heart. To see through the armor is to honor the humanity beneath. And once you glimpse the person without the mask, you cannot unsee them. You become forever aware that every interaction carries this hidden depth, this interplay of fear, hope, and longing that defines the human experience. So the next time you speak with someone, pause. Before you listen, observe their tone, their eyes, the rhythm of their breath. Look for the seams in the mask. Then extend the compassion that acknowledges both their armor and the vulnerable spirit it protects. In that space between the facade and the soul, genuine connection awaits. And in that connection, the armor finally begins to shed, revealing the true self beneath. Where the mask slips, no mask is flawless. No armor remains unblemished under constant pressure. In the quiet interstices of conversation and behavior, the true self often peeks through, revealing the vulnerabilities that the mask was intended to conceal. To read people effectively, you must learn to notice these subtle tells, the micro expressions, the fleeting glances, the hesitations and slips in speech that betray the person beneath the persona. Imagine a friend recounting an embarrassing moment from childhood. As they speak, their lips tug into a wry smile, yet their eyes dart to the side, the laughter forced. That momentary eye movement, a look away, speaks volumes. It signals discomfort, a desire to distance themselves emotionally from the recollection. The smile is the mask's last stand. The glance, its fracture. Humans are storytellers who edit ourselves as we speak, but those edits are never perfect. A slight tension in the jaw, a throat cleared mid-sentence. A rapid blinky chiz, a clue. The first category of slips appears in tension. Tension surfaces when someone encounters a thought, memory, or question that hits too close to the vulnerable core. Their muscles stiffen, shoulders rise, fists clench, brow furrows. They may cross their arms or step back, creating distance. Watch for what makes someone physically recoil. It's often the unspoken territory they'd rather not traverse. That tension marks the borders of the masked territory, where the mask's adhesive weakens and the raw self strains to break free. The second category is displacement, when a person's eyes shift away from direct gaze. Humans evolved to signal trust by sustained eye contact. Breaking that contact often signals discomfort or concealment. When someone glances to the side or down, they're not just processing the next words. They're warding off exposure. Their gaze flickers toward an exit, a distraction, or inward to their own thoughts. Notice when the eyes dance off script. That momentary diversion is the mind's flight response. Third, pay heed to verbal hesitation. Speech is a performance that relies on rehearsed patterns. When someone hits an unrehearsed vulnerability, their fluency falters. They insert filler words, like, or repeat phrases while they search for a safe route back to well-known territory. A person describing their proudest achievement will speak fluidly. A person describing a painful failure will hesitate, their cadence broken. Those stumbles are like cracks in armor, revealing the soft materials beneath. Fourth is the shift in tone. The mask often maintains a consistent, controlled tone, but under stress, tone wavers. A voice too high-pitched betrays anxiety. Voice too low betrays suppression of emotion. Listen for sudden changes in volume or pace. A rush to get through a topic signals a rush to bury it. Conversely, an overly deliberate slow cadence may signal an attempt to appear composed when the heart races underneath. Tone variations are emotional tremors transmitted through the mask. Fifth, observe incongruent expressions. The face is a master of deceit. Micro-expressions last only a fraction of a second, but they're genuine. A flicker of sadness, anger, or fear that contradicts the spoken sentiment is telling. A person claiming they couldn't care less while their lips purse and eyes narrow is experiencing irritation or hurt. A forced smile that never touches the eyes is a polite lie. The mask can fake a macro expression, grin, frown, glare, but it cannot erase the micro imprint of genuine feeling. These tells tension, displacement, hesitation, tone shifts, and micro-expressions are the cracks where truth leaks out. Occur not because people mean to deceive others, but because they're deceiving themselves. Nietzsche observed that most individuals are actors in plays they didn't write. The roles they inhabit were crafted by childhood lessons, social expectations, and survival strategies. Over time, these roles ossify into automatic behaviors. But when stress intrudes, the automatic falters, and the concealed script emerges. Consider a manager who constantly interrupts subordinates. At first glance, he seems domineering, perhaps arrogant. Yet, when you watch his interruptions closely, you notice that he only interrupts discussions about his own weaknesses or mistakes. When the topic touches his vulnerabilities, budget shortfalls, failed initiatives, feedback from superiors, he cuts people off, redirecting the conversation to safe subjects. His interruption is a defensive maneuver, a slip revealing where the mask cannot withstand pressure. The interruption is the tension in action. Similarly, a friend who changes the subject whenever you ask about their family may have experienced trauma at home. You notice the shift in eye contact and the sudden quickening of speech when the topic arises. Their knee bounces under the table. Their laugh becomes a shield. These are displacement and hesitation marks. By observing those marks, you detect the rough edges of the mask and infer the hidden wounds that shaped it. In relationships, these tells are gold. When you learn to see them, you build trust by acknowledging them. You might say, "I noticed. You seemed uncomfortable when I mentioned your family. Whenever you're ready, I'm here to listen." That invitation, rooted in observation, not accusation, lets the other person know they've been seen beneath the mask. The response may be gratitude, relief, or further defense. Regardless, the bond deepens because vulnerability is the currency of genuine connection. To practice. Pick a trustworthy volunteer, friend, partner, or colleague, and ask a question you know may be uncomfortable for them. As they respond, study their body language. Notice any fleeting tension in the posture, any gaze diversion, any break in vocal rhythm. Resist the urge to correct or reassure immediately. Simply observe. After the conversation, ask them how they felt. Did they sense their own discomfort? Did they notice any tension or hesitation? Comparing your observations with their feelings refines your skill. The skill of detecting mask slips is akin to learning a new language, the language of human truth. At first, you understand only blunt signals. Over time, you discern subtler nuances. You become attuned to the symphony of micro-movements that accompany every utterance. Eventually, you realize that people are never fully the sum of their words. They are the interplay of words and unspoken tells. As you grow in this skill, you must wield it responsibly. Reading tells is not about manipulation or power. It's about empathy and understanding. When you detect tension, you don't exploit it. You ease it. When you notice a hesitation, you offer space. When you perceive an incongruent expression, you give someone permission to speak their truth. In this way, your awareness becomes a gift rather than a weapon, in every interaction, masks will slip. The beautiful paradox is that the act of observing slips often causes you to slip your own mask, revealing your genuine interest, compassion, and respect. In that shared vulnerability, authentic connection takes root. The mask becomes not a barrier, but a bridge. By learning to read these cracks, you unlock a deeper understanding of human nature. You see that the most powerful moments occur not when armor shines flawlessly, but when it fractures ever so slightly, allowing light to pass through. And in that light, you glimpse not only others' hidden selves, but also the echoes of your own masks. The patterns you, too, have worn to survive. In Part 3, we will delve into why those patterns form in the first place, exploring the childhood, wounds, and survival strategies that shape our masks. But before you move on, take a moment to reflect on the slips you've witnessed both in others and yourself. Those slips are invitations to authenticity, beckoning you to embrace the genuine beneath the guise. Fear and projection. Fear is the primal engine beneath nearly every human action. Nietzsche taught that our choices are driven less by pure desire and more by the deep-seated terror of loss of love, status, identity, or self-worth. We defend ourselves not just against external threats, but against the haunting possibility that we are not enough. This fear shapes the masks we wear and the stories we tell ourselves. To see beyond those masks, we must understand how fear manifests and how projection transforms our shadows into someone else's silhouette. Imagine two coworkers debating a new project. One insists vehemently that the plan is flawless, interrupting any criticism with airtight defenses. This individual seems supremely confident. Yet beneath that polished exterior lies a fear of failure, fear so potent that admitting any flaw would feel like a personal defeat. The loud proclamations of certainty are a shield forged from panic at the thought of admitting mistakes. If you listen carefully, you hear trembling notes in their insistence. It's perfect. You're mistaken. Don't question this. Those are not declarations of truth, but frantic warding spells against an inner terror. Projection amplifies fear by redirecting it outward. When someone mocks arrogance in others, it often reveals their own insecurity about self-worth. When a person rails against dishonesty, they may be battling self-deception. We see glaring faults in others because those faults exist sometimes more vividly in our own minds. Projection is not malicious. It is instinctive self-preservation. By attacking a trait in another, we soothe our discomfort about possessing that trait ourselves. In social psychology, this defense mechanism helps avoid the painful work of self-examination. Yet, if you learn to recognize projection, you gain a powerful tool to read hidden fears, to detect projection. Pay attention to what people criticize most. If your friend incessantly ridicules others for being unambitious, pause and ask, what ambition do they secretly covet? If someone highlights every instance of selfishness, consider whether they struggle to acknowledge their own needs. Often, projection is subtle, a stray comment here, an exaggerated reaction there. But when criticism recurs, it points directly to a core fear. Tracking these judgments is like following a trail of breadcrumbs leading back to the critic's own. Unacknowledged wounds. Self-deception compounds fear. People lie to themselves long before they lie to you. We repeat comforting untruths. I don't care what they think. I'm over it. Everything's fine, until we believe them. These self-deceptions shield us from emotional pain and allow us to function in a world that often feels unforgiving. But because the lies are rehearsed so frequently, they become fragile. Inconsistent statements and contradictory behaviors emerge as tangible cracks in the self-narrative. These inconsistencies are golden opportunities for insight. Consider someone who insists they have moved on from a breakup but reacts painfully to any mention of their ex's name. Their words claim detachment, yet their bodily reactions, pupil dilation, a shift in posture, a sudden intake of breath betray lingering hurt. This mismatch between verbal and nonverbal signals is rooted in self-deception. Until they confront the residual pain, their mask remains a house of cards, vulnerable to the smallest gust of reminder. Excessive moralizing is another projection of fear. When virtue signaling becomes grandstanding, it often shields deep insecurities. A colleague who publicly condemns every ethical lapse may harbor guilt about their own past mistakes. A friend who constantly champions humility might be terrified of appearing arrogant. Nietzsche labeled this the will to power in disguise, the drive to assert superiority cloaked in moral righteousness. Real integrity requires no announcement. It lives in quiet consistency. It's not public spectacle. Projection and self-deception intersect most potently in our social media lives. Endless streams of curated perfection vacation photos, gym selfies, triumphant announcements signal not triumph, but panic. Behind every picture-perfect post, someone battles the fear of being ignored or deemed inadequate. They demand attention not because they feel secure, but because they can't bear the silence that threatens to reveal their vulnerabilities. When you scroll past someone's constant performance, remember, their loudest posts are often there. Quietest cries. 2. Sharpen your ability to read fear and projection. Cultivate curiosity without judgment. When you notice harsh criticism, ask yourself, what fear is this person trying to ward off? When someone boasts about their accomplishments, consider what insecurity they may be concealing. Approach these reflections as hypotheses rather than accusations. For instance, if a friend repeatedly highlights others' indecisiveness, you might gently inquire, have you been feeling uncertain about something lately? That question, offered with care, invites reflection rather than defense. Equally important is self-awareness. Projection is a two-way mirror. As we detect it in others, we must also examine our own judgments. Next time you feel a surge of disgust or anger toward someone, pause. Ask, what is this reaction telling me about my own fears? If someone's arrogance triggers you, perhaps it awakens your own doubts of adequacy. If someone's success provokes envy, it may spotlight aspirations you've neglected. By owning these projections, you diminish their power over your perceptions As you practice. Note that unpacking fear and projection is not a one-time task, but an ongoing journey. Wounds resurface in new guises as life unfolds. A cordial friendship may reveal tension when careers advance. Familial conversations may unearth old insecurities long thought buried. Each slip invites a fresh opportunity to observe, inquire, and connect. Over time, you build a mental map of how people protect themselves and what lies beneath those defenses. Responsibility accompanies this insight. Reading fear and projection is not a means to manipulate or exploit. It is a bridge to empathy. When you recognize someone's fear, you can respond with kindness rather than critique. If a colleague's aggression masks anxiety, you offer reassurance instead of retaliation. If a loved one's judgment reveals their insecurity, you share your own vulnerabilities to create mutual trust. In these moments, your understanding becomes a gift that encourages others to lower their masks. Ultimately, the skill of perceiving fear and projection transforms relationships. It deepens conversations from surface banter to shared humanity. It fosters compassion by revealing the universal struggle to be seen and accepted. Nietzsche believed that acknowledging our own masks and those of others leads to greater authenticity. By learning to read fear and projection, you step into a space where masks no longer divide us, but guide us toward the truth we all share beneath every armor. A fragile heart beats, yearning for understanding and connection gains in the next chapter. We will explore how the grand performance of social life, the conspicuous displays of confidence, virtue, and control serves as both armor and prison, and how genuine self-knowledge dissolves the need for applause. But before moving on, pause to reflect on the fears you've witnessed in others and within yourself, and consider how projection has shaped your perceptions. In that reflection lies the gateway to deeper empathy and lasting insight. The grand performance in the theater of human interaction. Everyone is both actor and audience. We perform roles scripted by culture, upbringing, and personal ambition, constantly aware of the eyes upon us. Nietzsche saw this spectacle and recognized that the louder the performance, the emptier the core. Confidence becomes a show. Virtue becomes a prop. Control becomes a cage. When you learn to discern between authentic presence and theatrical display, you see not only how people protect themselves, but how they imprison themselves. Imagine a social gathering where one guest dominates every conversation. Their laughter booms first, their anecdotes arrive with perfect timing, and their posture commands attention. Others lean in, dazzled by charisma. But notice the tiny tells beneath the bravado, a flicker of hesitation before they begin speaking, a fleeting glance to the exit, a quick sip of drink after each punchline. These are the stress points in the performance, the actor checking for audience cues, seeking reassurance that the mask still holds. Control is at the heart of the grand performance. We manage our speech, our gestures, our digital personas, believing that mastery over our image grants security. Okay, yet? The very act of controlling every detail signals a fear of inner chaos. A person who micromanages meetings, dictates every agenda item, and insists on precise scripting of team communications is not showcasing leadership. They are warding off the terror that without complete control, everything will unravel. Their outer world becomes a fortress, but it is built on shifting sands. On social media, the grand performance reaches its zenith. Here, where images and status updates are currency, people craft idealized versions of themselves. They chronicle vacations at sunset, promotions at the office, milestones with perfect smiles. Each post is meticulously framed, each caption carefully calibrated. When someone posts dozens of polished images of themselves at a single event, it isn't purely celebration. It's a defensive barricade against any suggestion of imperfection. They demand validation in likes and comments because the silence between posts gnaws at their sense of worth. Yet even the most carefully curated profile cannot fully mask inner turmoil. Look beyond the filtered photos and detect the pattern. Does the person post relentlessly at specific times, early morning or late at night, seeking to fill an emotional void? Do they react defensively to honest feedback, deleting comments or blocking critics? Do they express fear of being forgotten, hinting that if the audience looks away for one moment, they cease to exist? These are the subtle signs of the performance's fragility. Virtue signaling operates on a similar stage. When someone loudly proclaims their moral rectitude, denouncing every minor injustice, correcting others' language, or publicly shaming transgressors, they may be projecting an inner conviction that they themselves are morally insufficient. Real goodness, Nietzsche argued, requires no audience. True humility and integrity manifests in quiet acts, keeping promises when no one is watching, extending forgiveness without fanfare, and making sacrifices without expectation of recognition. When virtue becomes a performance, it reveals an underlying fear, the fear that without public acclaim, one's character will be deemed hollow. The performance of perfection is another mask. Consider the colleague who insists they are always calm under pressure, always organized, always on time. On the surface, they appear unshakable. Yet someone so relentlessly composed often carries immense self-criticism. They fear any display of emotion will be seen as weakness, so they banish tears, laughter, and vulnerability from their persona. Their world becomes a series of checkboxes, tasks completed, emails sent, objectives met, a lifeline to the illusion of flawless competence. But the moment an unforeseen crisis strikes, the mask quivers, and the hidden exhaustion pours through to see through these grand performances. Shift your focus from the spectacle to the silence between acts. Observe what happens when the show pauses. Does the performer check their phone obsessively? Do they fidget, indicating discomfort without direction? Does their smile fade for a heartbeat before they reboot the act? These interludes are where authenticity flickers. Another strategy is to invite improvisation. In a structured meeting, propose an unscripted question. Tell me about when this project didn't go as planned. Watch for the response. A truly composed leader will speak candidly, acknowledging mistakes and lessons learned. A performer will revert to rehearsed rhetoric victories recounted in glossy generalities. Failures minimized or blamed on others. Their avoidance of genuine reflection reveals the performance's limits. Beware of those who, demand absolute adherence to their narrative, When someone insists, "This is who I am, take it or leave it," they may be using self-certainty as a shield. Certainty feels strong, but only because it denies the possibility of being wrong. In reality, the most resilient people embrace nuance and doubt. They acknowledge that growth comes from questioning one's own beliefs and adjusting course when needed. Certainty performs power. Humility embodies it. The grand performance also thrives on comparison. A person constantly juxtaposing their achievements with others, "I did X, but they did Y," is perpetually measuring their worth against an external standard. This constant benchmarking is a structure built on shifting ground. No matter how many trophies you collect, there's always someone with more. Genuine self-esteem originates from inner values, not scoreboards. When you detect comparison as the performance's engine, you glimpse the insecurity fueling it to counteract. The grand performance in yourself, practice authenticity's quiet power. Share a small failure before it's discovered. Admit uncertainty when you're unsure. Let silence fill the space when you have nothing to say. These acts are not signs of weakness, but demonstrations of self-trust. They invite others to lower their defenses as well, creating a cycle of genuine exchange. When you engage with someone performing their mask, offer empathy, not accusation. Instead of calling out their bravado, "Why are you always so loud?" Opt for vulnerability. "I sometimes feel anxious about how I come across, too." This admission reframes the interaction from confrontation to camaraderie. The performer's mask then becomes less necessary, their confidence less performative. Ultimately, recognizing the grand performance dissolves the illusion of separation. We see that everyone, including ourselves, is caught in the same play, a struggle between the desire for acceptance and the fear of exposure. By observing how tightly people cling to their scripts, and by gently inviting off-script moments, we foster connections rooted in authenticity. As this chapter closes, remember, the applause you crave is already within you, waiting in moments of self-compassion and honest reflection. When you stop performing for the crowd, you discover the peace of performing for yourself. In the final chapter, we will explore how reading patterns, those repeated behaviors and defenses, reveals the deepest truths of the human soul. But before that, take a moment to practice silence in your next conversation. Allow the mask to rest in the calm. You may just hear the truth waiting to be spoken. From reading to connection, by now, you have learned to recognize the masks people wear, to notice where those masks crack, to understand the fears that drive projection, and to discern the theater of grand performances. Yet awareness alone is not the end goal. The true power of these insights lies in how you use them to forge deeper connections, to offer compassion, and to transform understanding into empathy. In this chapter, we explore the final step, moving from reading people to genuinely connecting with them. Connection begins with presence. When you engage someone, give them your full attention. Silence your inner monologue, put away distractions, and focus on their voice, expression, and posture. Presence creates a safe container in which vulnerability can emerge. It signals that you value the person beyond their performance, that you are interested in their inner world, not merely the facade they present. In this space, masks relax and authenticity finds room to breathe. Active listening is your next tool. Listening is more than hearing words. It involves reflecting back emotions and intentions. When someone speaks, summarize not only what they say but how they might feel. It sounds like you felt overlooked when your ideas were dismissed. This reflection validates their experience and shows that you notice subtleties, the slight downturn of their tone, the hesitation before certain topics. Such acknowledgement encourages them to lower their guard and share more deeply. Ask thoughtful, open-ended questions. Instead of, "Did that upset you?" Try what went through your mind when that happened. Fight them to explore their own reactions. Questions framed with genuine curiosity. How did that make you feel? Or what did you wish had been different? Demonstrate respect for their inner narrative. Avoid interrogation. Keep your tone gentle. Questions should be bridges, not barriers, leading toward mutual understanding rather than suspicion. Share your own reflections and vulnerabilities. Connection is reciprocal. As you create space for others to be seen, allow yourself to be seen in turn. Offer small glimpses behind your own masks. Admit uncertainty. I sometimes struggle to articulate my thoughts under pressure. Reveal a personal slip. I realized I interrupted you earlier. I was trying to steer away from my own discomfort. Anxieties. These honest admissions invite others to respond in kind, cultivating an atmosphere of mutual trust. Empathy deepens when you align with unspoken emotions. If someone's words describe a professional setback, but their expression hints at self-doubt, address the emotion. It seems like you're worried this will reflect on your competence. Naming the unspoken validates their inner struggle. It shows you're attuned not only to their narrative, but to the silent currents beneath it. In that validation, they find relief. They are no longer alone in their fear. Use observations of tension and projection not to judge, but to guide support. If you notice a friend's defensiveness around criticism, approach the topic gently. I've noticed you get tense when feedback comes up. Would you like to talk about what feels most challenging? By referencing what you observe, you demonstrate care and insight without accusation. You transform a perceived weakness into an opportunity for growth and reassurance. Patience is essential. Authentic connection cannot be rushed. Some masks are thicker than others, forged from long-held wounds or survival strategies. Pressing too quickly can trigger retreat. Instead, respect each person's pace. Celebrate small openings, a fleeting moment of eye contact, a softer tone, a tentative disclosure. These tiny victories mark progress on the journey from performance to authenticity. Boundaries play a crucial role. While empathy invites deep understanding, it does not obligate you to absorb others' burdens. Healthy connection honors both. Proximity and distance. Offer support, but recognize when you need to step back. Maintain your own emotional equilibrium so you can remain present. In modeling balanced empathy, you teach others that connection thrives in a space of mutual care and respect. As connections deepen, patterns become easier to navigate. You'll recognize recurring tensions, projected fears, and performance triggers in specific individuals. Use this knowledge to anticipate needs and adapt your approach. If a colleague freezes during high-stakes meetings, offer pre-meeting coaching. If a partner evades discussing family issues, gently schedule a private conversation. At home, tailoring your engagement to the person's unique mask dynamics fosters trust and communication. Finally, remember that connection transforms both parties. As you see through masks and respond with empathy, you reinforce your own authenticity. Each act of genuine presence and compassionate listening strengthens your capacity for vulnerability. You learn that masks are not enemies to be torn down, but invitations to understanding. In mirroring others' courage to reveal themselves, you cultivate your own courage to live without armor. In recognizing the masks we all wear and practicing empathy, connection, and authenticity, we fulfill Nietzsche's aspiration, not merely to see through others, but to awaken a deeper humanity within ourselves. No longer limited to reading people, you become a catalyst for mutual revelation. You help people exchange isolation for community and fear for trust. As you move forward, carry these truths into every relationship, professional, personal, and casual. Offer your presence as a sanctuary. Let your questions be keys that unlock hidden doors. Share your own vulnerabilities to light the path. In doing so, you forge bonds that transcend performance, transforming the masks we wear into bridges that unite us. And so, you arrive at the journey's threshold, having learned to read the signs, to perceive the fractures, to understand the fears, to discern the performances, and finally to connect with authenticity. The journey does not end here. Each day offers new masks and new opportunities for empathy. With each connection you forge, you remind the world and yourself that beneath every mask beats a heart longing to be seen.